Would like to begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, our nourisher, and we also begin by sending our peace and blessings and salutations upon our beloved messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. My dear respected brothers and sisters, each and every single one of us here, sitting here tonight, have some sort of worry. Many of us, in fact, sitting here tonight, we have debts that we are worried about. We have car loans. Many of us are trying to get rid of the mortgage that we have taken out, right? Maybe it's the first one, maybe it's the second one, or it's the car loan, or maybe it's the business investment that we suffered a loss in, and now the money that we have borrowed, we have to pay that back. So there's a remedy in the ahadith the Prophet ﷺ has taught us, and that is the following dua. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazan. Translation is that, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from the worries of this world and from the griefs of this world. وَأَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنَ الْعَجْزِ وَالْكَسَلِ. And oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from being helpless, that I become so weak, now I'm unable to pay my debts back or handle the situation the way as a person is supposed to handle that situation. Wal-kasal, and oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from being lazy. From being lazy. And this is something that we see in the youngsters or in the new generation. 25 years old, 30 years old, go to work. I can't, I don't want to. Right? Why? Because laziness has entered into their life. And they have gotten comfortable by not doing anything. So therefore, the Prophet ﷺ used to recite this dua that, oh Allah, I seek protection in you from what? From laziness. And then he used to also recite in the same dua that, oh Allah, I seek protection from you, in you from jubn, being a coward. That I'm unable to defend, for example, my family. I'm unable to provide for the family members. So I'm unable to give up my life and my health and my wealth in your path, O Allah. O Allah, make me a brave individual. Do not make me a coward. Wal-bukhl, and O Allah, protect me from miserliness. Some people have deep pockets, but no heart. Their hands does not reach that pocket of theirs when it comes to spending in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to recite this dua that, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from miserliness. وَأَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ غَلَبَةِ الدَّيْنِ. And oh Allah, I seek protection in you from the burdens of debt. Because debt is something that because of the pressure that you have on top of your heads, whether it's the money that you borrowed for the business investment, or maybe it might be the house payments, or maybe it might be the credit card payments or the auto loan payments, it will most likely, not always, many a times, a person just to pay them off does haram. So therefore the Prophet ﷺ used to recite this dua, and he used to say that, oh Allah, the debts that I owe to others, oh Allah, do not let these debts become overwhelming, because it messes with a person's mind. وَقَهْرِ الرِّجَالِ, and oh Allah, I seek protection in you from the oppression of the people around me. And then he used to recite, Allahumma kfini bihalalika an haramik, that oh Allah, make your halal sufficient for me so that I do not need to go towards the haram. وَأَغْنِنِي بِفَضْلِكَ عَمَّنْ سِوَاكَ, and oh Allah, make me independent so that I can stand on my own feet and fulfill my own needs and my own wants, so that I do not become dependent on others besides you, O Allah. So this was a dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to recite. For many of us, it's probably a long dua to memorize, but at least we understood the meaning of the dua. So when we raise our hands after salat, this is the dua that we should be reciting, inshaAllah. My brothers and elders, moving on with the series of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the Guiding Star series. For the past few weeks, we've been discussing about Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, known as Idahiyatu Quraysh, the most smart intellectual and the most cunning of the entire Quraysh. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, upon an occasion, had an encounter with Musaylama Kadhab. Some of you probably remember Musaylama Kadhab, the false prophet, or the one who claimed to be a prophet. His name was Musaylama. Al-Kadhab means the greatest liar and the biggest liar of all time. Not only a liar, but the greatest and the biggest liar of all time. He claimed to be a prophet after the demise of the Prophet ﷺ, and he had his own army, and he claimed to be a prophet to the extent that he was so vicious and rigorous in this claim of his that he killed many of the Muslims. So at the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, his zulm, his oppression was suppressed. So Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu once had an encounter with him, and Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu is not someone that you're going to put your hands on. If there were 10 people who wanted to basically knock down Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, they would think not twice but 3 times. Right? He's not an ordinary person that you can just knock down on the floor and just make him admit to whatever it is that you want him to admit to, or make him admit or make him believe that you, or Musaylama, is a prophet of Allah, na'udhu billah. So Musaylama had an interaction with him, an encounter with him, and he said to him that, do you know that I am actually a prophet of Allah? So Musaylama's statement was this. He said to him, "O Musaylama, what's the proof? Give me some of the proof." And if you remember the story that I shared with you previously, he started to quote those funny verses that he had made up. Al-filu mal-fil lahu dhanbun tawil. Right? These type of statements he started to make up. It was so jaw-dropping that Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu was lost of words, and he had nothing to say to him. All he was doing was just looking at him, and he said, "O Musaylama, wallahi innaka ta'lamu anni a'lamu annaka kadhib." That, "O Musaylama, I swear by Allah, you know that I know that you're a prophet. And that you also know yourself that you're not a prophet, that you're not a prophet and that you are a liar." So this was the interaction with him and Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu. And of course Musaylama was not able to do something to him as he had done to many of the other companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like for example the sons or the children of Nusaybah bint Ka'b radiallahu anha, where he had them all killed because of the fact that they did not want to admit to his prophethood. So now Musaylama is out of the equation also, and I previously told you that he stationed himself where? Near Rafah, by the border of Egypt, and that entire land of Palestine, right, that you see in modern day in Google Maps, it shows that it is Israel. That entire strip was taken over by Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu 1,400 years ago under the leadership of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he was basically an unstoppable force to the extent that many of the non-Muslims who had their armies prepared and they knew that the Muslims are 4,000 and that we are 120,000, they would still shiver out of fear. They knew that these people are not ordinary people and that these people are not those that we can mess with. And over 70 or 80% of them, they accepted Islam not by force. They accepted Islam because of the fact that when the Sahaba entered into these cities, they were treated even more better than their former government was treating them. So then they were asking questions that what is this religion that you people are following? Right? Islam gave everyone their equal rights. To the extent that the Jews who were driven out of their homeland at the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, some of them, they came back. Some of them, they ended up coming back because the Romans were not allowing them to come. The Crusaders were not allowing them to come. Right? Even before Salahuddin Ayyubi rahimahullah, when Al-Quds was under the was with the Muslims, under the control of the Muslims, it was taken away for about 70 years from the control and from the hands of the Muslims. When the Crusaders, they entered into Al-Quds and they entered into Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa, over 70,000 Muslims, men, women, kids were butchered by the Crusaders. Over 70,000 of them. And then 70 years later, roughly, Salahuddin Ayyubi rahimahullah took the land back from them, and he gave, and the way Umar radiallahu anhu had set up the system, he set up the same system and reestablished it once again, to the extent that the Jews were also given equal rights. That's how kind the Muslims have been to them throughout their entire history. Now, another incident. So in that strip that you see in the map, there was the last stronghold of the Roman Empire. Now, the Roman Empire is coming down to its knees. The Persians are now coming down in their knees. They are no match for the Muslims. So their strong military base was, or their White House was also where? In Palestine. That's where it was. That's where the Roman emperor was, whose name was Artabun. And the word Artabun is a non-Arabic word. So Artabun was considered by his own people to be the Amr of the Arabs. Just like how Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu was an intellectual person, Artabun was considered to be the intellectual person of his own people, of the Roman Empire. So the Romans, or the Christians, used to call Artabun Amr. And the believers, the Muslims, they used to compare Amr with Artabun, that he's just as sharp as Artabun. But then they are comparing Artabun also with Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So now, Umar radiallahu anhu is also saying to himself that if these two people were to interact verbally with one another, it will be the battle of the intellectual ones. The battle of the smart, cunning, and people who you can never ever defeat in their intelligence. So now these two people are known for their sharpness. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, as I mentioned previously, he had traveled that land previously, so he knew. But he wanted to know where Artabun is situated at exactly. So therefore he sends them a letter that I am going to be sending my ambassador to talk. So he himself went as his own ambassador. You understand what's happening? Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu told Artabun that Amr, will be sending an ambassador to come and talk to you in your palace. But he himself went in as his own ambassador. So you see how smart and intellectual Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu was. Fearless. He only feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he entered into the palace of Artabun, why did he want to infiltrate that palace? Why did he want to go to the White House of that time, basically? Why? So that he can know where the entrance is, he can know where the exit is. Because he knew something is about to happen, so I need to be prepared for it. He was a smart person. So he started to note down everything with his own eyes. There are guards here, there's a fort over there, okay, there are more guards over here. He started to note down everything in his head. Artabun immediately picked up that this is Amr. Artabun was also a smart person. So he immediately picked up and he said to his guard, and he did this, that's it, cut his neck. He's done. This is Amr. Kill him right there and then. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu realized that his cover has been blown. So he said to him that, O Artabun, do you know that there are many other Sahaba and many other companions of Umar who want to come and talk to you. So the next time when I come, I will bring 10s and 20s and 30s more with me. So now Artabun started to think that, oh, instead of just killing one Sahabi, the next time when they come, it will be 20 or 30 of them, I'll kill them all. So he said to him, oh Amr, he said to him, oh ambassador, but he knew in his heart that that's Amr, he's not the ambassador. You can go ahead and leave. The moment Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu left, he realized that he was tricked, and Artabun said the following statement, هَذَا وَاللَّهِ دَاهِيَةُ قُرَيْشٍ, that this man, I swear by Allah, is the most cunning and the most intellectual man of the entire Quraysh. Moral of the story is what? لا أخاف إلا الله. I have no fear except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then later on, when Islam went into the land of Egypt also, Umar radiallahu anhu had to tell him that take some rest, relax, take it easy. But he said, you know what? I'm doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Islam has to spread throughout the entire known world at that time. And when they went into the lands of Egypt, I mentioned to you 2 weeks ago the interaction that they had with the Egyptians. And they were shocked when they saw the akhlaq and the good morals of these Sahaba radiallahu anhum, to the extent that they felt more comfortable being with the Muslims than with their own government. Ubadah ibn Samit radiallahu anhu was the architect for the city that the Muslims and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum built by the name of Fustat. That was the ancient city of Egypt. In today's time, it is known as Old Cairo. Google it. Old Cairo. Not Cairo. There's another city called Old Cairo. That was the city that was built by Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu. And you know who designed it? Ubadah ibn Samit radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He was the one who designed it. And they built a masjid there by the name of Masjid Amr ibn al-As. It exists until today, 1400 years later. Up until today, it exists. You saw how innovative the Muslims were back in the days. Their goal and focus was only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever they would enter into a land, many of them were under the impression that they will cause a massacre. The Jews were thinking that just like how the Crusaders, they always kill us and drive us out of our own land, the Muslims will do the same. And vice versa. The Christians were thinking the same. But the Muslims, throughout the entire history, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum showed their akhlaq to the entire world. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant me and all of us the ability and the tawfiq to act upon whatever was just said and to follow the footsteps of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan.